In Hunter x Hunter, Nen is a system that allows people to control their life energy, known as aura, and use it in ways that go far beyond normal human abilities. Every living creature produces aura, and it naturally surrounds the body. However, ordinary people cannot see or control it. By learning Nen, a person can gain control over their aura and use it to enhance their physical abilities, protect themselves, conceal their presence, sense others, and eventually create unique abilities. But Nen isn't simply about having a large amount of aura. It is a complex system based on knowledge, control, experience, and strategy. A clever Nen user can sometimes defeat someone who is physically much stronger simply by understanding how to use their aura more effectively. The entire system begins with 4 fundamental principles. 10. Zetsu, Ren, and Hatsu. These 4 principles form the foundation of Nen, and every advanced technique builds upon them. But that's only the beginning. Nen also contains advanced techniques, different types of aura, and special restrictions that can dramatically increase the power of an ability. What makes Nen so interesting is that there isn't one simple way to become powerful. Every person can develop their own abilities and fighting style depending on how they understand and use their aura. So, to truly understand Nen, we have to start with its foundation. 10 is the first fundamental principle of Nen, and it allows a user to keep their aura surrounding their body. Normally, aura naturally flows out of the body. But by using 10, a Nen user learns to contain that aura and maintain it around themselves, creating a protective layer. This is extremely important because 10 prevents the user's aura from constantly escaping, allowing them to preserve their life energy instead of wasting it. But 10 isn't only useful for conserving aura. The layer surrounding the body also provides protection against physical attacks and, more importantly, helps protect the user from the aura of other Nen users. 10 can also help maintain the body's vitality, which is why experienced Nen users can keep it active for long periods of time without becoming exhausted. Another important thing about 10 is that it doesn't give the user a unique ability or suddenly make them incredibly powerful. Its purpose is much simpler: control and protection. That's why 10 is considered the foundation of Nen. Before a person can properly master more advanced techniques, they first need to learn how to control and maintain their aura. Zetsu is the second fundamental principle of Nen, and it allows a user to completely suppress the flow of their aura. While 10 keeps aura surrounding the body, Zetsu does almost the opposite. By closing the aura nodes around the body, the user stops their aura from flowing outward, making their presence extremely difficult for other Nen users to detect. This makes Zetsu especially useful when someone wants to hide or move without being noticed. A skilled user can use it to conceal their aura and make themselves almost impossible to sense, even when standing relatively close to another Nen user. However, Zetsu comes with a serious disadvantage. When a user activates Zetsu, the protective layer of aura created by 10 disappears. This leaves the body much more vulnerable because there is no longer a layer of aura protecting it from physical attacks or the aura of other Nen users. For this reason, using Zetsu during a fight can be extremely dangerous. If an opponent discovers the user's location, they can attack while the user has almost no aura protecting them. Zetsu also has another important use. By completely suppressing the flow of aura, a user can recover their strength more efficiently because they are no longer constantly releasing aura. This makes Zetsu useful not only for hiding, but also for resting and conserving energy. However, Zetsu is not perfect. Some Nen techniques, such as EN, can still detect someone even when they are using Zetsu. So while Zetsu can make a Nen user extremely difficult to detect, it doesn't make them completely invisible. And that's what makes Zetsu so dangerous. The technique gives you excellent concealment, but at the cost of your protection. Ren is the third fundamental principle of Nen, and it allows a user to produce and release a much greater amount of aura. While 10 focuses on maintaining aura around the body and Zetsu suppresses its flow, Ren does the opposite. The user deliberately increases the amount of aura they produce, causing a powerful flow of aura to surround their body. This dramatically increases the user's physical abilities. Their strength, durability, and overall fighting potential can become far greater than those of an ordinary person. But Ren isn't simply about becoming stronger. Learning Ren also teaches a Nen user how to control a much larger amount of aura without losing control of it. This is essential because the more aura a person can produce and manipulate, the more powerful and versatile their Nen abilities can become. Ren is also one of the first techniques that allows a Nen user to truly sense the difference between their own power and that of another user. An experienced Nen user can often feel the enormous pressure produced by someone's aura and understand that they are facing a dangerous opponent. However, Ren consumes a significant amount of physical and mental energy. Maintaining a large amount of aura for a long period can exhaust the user, especially if they haven't trained enough. This is why Nen users must learn to control the amount of aura they release rather than simply producing as much as possible. Ren also forms the foundation of several advanced Nen techniques. By learning how to produce and control large amounts of aura, users can later concentrate, distribute, or manipulate that aura in much more specialized ways. Hatsu is the fourth principle of Nen, and it is the ability to express and shape your aura according to your individual nature. While Ten allows you to maintain your aura, Zetsu suppresses it, and Ren increases its output. Hatsu is what allows a Nen user to turn their aura into a unique ability. Every Nen user has a natural affinity toward one of the 6 Nen types. These types determine how their aura can be expressed and what kinds of abilities they are naturally suited to develop. The 6 types are enhancement, transmutation, conjuration, emission, manipulation, and specialization. For example, an enhancer can use their aura to strengthen themselves or something else, while a transmuter can change the properties of their aura. The other categories have their own methods of using aura, which we'll explore separately. However, Hatsu isn't simply a technique that gives someone a random superpower. A Nen ability is created through the user's understanding of Nen, creativity, training, and the way they choose to apply their aura. This is why 2 people with the same Nen type can develop completely different abilities. Hatsu can also become much more powerful when a user places specific conditions, limitations, or risks on their ability. These restrictions can increase the power of an ability in exchange for limiting how and when it can be used. And this is one of the most important ideas behind Nen. A powerful ability isn't necessarily the one with the most raw power, but the one that is designed and used most effectively. However, being naturally suited to one Nen type doesn't mean a user can only use that type. They can also learn to use other categories, but their efficiency depends on how compatible those categories are with their natural type. For example, a user may have 100% efficiency in their natural category, while their efficiency in other categories can be lower. If you're still enjoying the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and leave a comment telling me what you think about the video. Enhancement is a Nen type that allows a user to strengthen the natural properties of themselves or an object using aura. In simple terms, enhancers use their aura to make something stronger, tougher, or more powerful than it normally is. This makes enhancement especially effective in direct combat because an enhancer can greatly increase their physical strength and durability. One of the best examples is Goon Freaks. His ability Jajankan, Rock concentrates a huge amount of aura into his fist, allowing him to unleash an extremely powerful physical attack. Another example is Uvagin, one of the strongest members of the Phantom Troop. His incredible physical strength is amplified by enhancement, allowing him to withstand powerful attacks and deliver devastating punches. Then there is Finks Magcub, whose ability Ripper Cyclotron increases the power of his punch depending on how many times he rotates his arm before attacking. The more rotations he performs, the more powerful the resulting punch becomes. However, being an enhancer doesn't mean you can only use enhancement. Nen users can learn to use other categories as well, but their efficiency depends on how compatible those categories are with their natural type. An enhancer has 100% enhancement, 80% emission, 80% transmutation, 60% conjuration, 60% manipulation, 0% specialization. This means an enhancer can potentially learn abilities from other categories, but they won't necessarily be as efficient as someone naturally suited to that category. That's what makes enhancement so dangerous. It may be the simplest Nen category, but in the hands of a skilled user, overwhelming physical power can be enough to defeat almost anyone. Transmutation is a NEN type that allows a user to change the properties of their aura, making it behave like something else while remaining aura. In simple terms, a transmuter can give their aura properties that make it resemble different materials or substances. This allows them to create highly versatile abilities without actually creating the substance itself. One of the most famous examples is Killua Zoldyck. He transforms his aura into electricity, allowing him to use techniques such as Godspeed, which greatly increases his speed and reaction time. Another example is Hisoka Moro. His ability Bungee Gum gives his aura the properties of both rubber and gum, allowing him to stretch it, attach it to objects, pull things toward him, and use it in extremely creative ways. A third example is Phaeton Porter, whose ability Pain Packer can transform his aura into a devastating attack after he suffers damage. His most famous technique, Rising Sun, creates an enormous amount of heat that burns everything around him. Like every NEN user, a transmuter can learn to use other NEN categories, but their efficiency depends on their natural affinity. A transmuter has 100% transmutation, 80% enhancement, 80% conjuration, 60% emission, 60% manipulation, 0% specialization. This combination makes transmutation one of the most versatile NEN types, because changing the properties of aura gives its users enormous freedom when creating their abilities. Emission is a NEN type that allows a user to separate their aura from their body while maintaining control over it. Normally, aura is closely connected to the user's body, but emitters can project their aura over long distances without losing as much power. This makes emission especially useful for long-range attacks and abilities. One famous example is Leorio Paradinite. His ability allows him to project his aura through a distance and make it emerge from another location, allowing him to strike or affect someone without being directly beside them. Another example is Razor, one of the powerful NEN users responsible for running the game Greed Island. His NEN ability allows him to create and control powerful aura-based creatures called 14 Devils, which he can use in combat and other situations. A third example is Franklin Bordeaux of the Phantom Troop. His ability Double Machine Gun allows him to fire large numbers of aura bullets directly from his fingertips, turning his hands into extremely powerful long-range weapons. Like every NEN user, an emitter can learn to use other NEN categories, but their efficiency depends on their natural affinity. An emitter has 100% emission, 80% enhancement, 80% manipulation, 60% transmutation, 40% conjuration, 0% specialization. Emission is particularly useful for users who want to fight from a distance, but it can also be combined with other NEN categories to create much more complex abilities. The farther aura travels from its user, the more difficult it can become to maintain its power and control. Skilled emitters, however, can overcome this limitation and use their aura effectively even at considerable distances. Conjuration is a NEN type that allows a user to create physical objects using their aura. Unlike transmutation, which changes the properties of aura, conjuration allows the user to actually create a tangible object that can normally be seen and touched. The created objects can have special properties or abilities, but they usually work according to specific rules or conditions established by the user. One famous example is Kurapika. His ability allows him to create chains from his aura, and each chain has a different purpose and ability. His most dangerous chain, Chain Jail, was created with a restriction that makes it extremely powerful against the Phantom Troop. Another example is Shizuku Murasaki. She can conjure a vacuum cleaner called Blinky, which can suck up almost anything that isn't alive. She uses it for both combat and practical purposes. A third example is Kite, whose ability Crazy Slots conjures a clown-like weapon that randomly gives him one of several different weapons. Each weapon has its own characteristics and purpose. Like other NEN users, a conjurer can learn to use other NEN categories, but their efficiency depends on their natural affinity. A conjurer has 100% conjuration, 80% transmutation, 60% enhancement, 60% manipulation, 40% emission, 0% specialization. This makes conjuration extremely versatile. A skilled conjurer can create far more than simple weapons or objects. With the right conditions and restrictions, their creations can possess incredibly powerful and specialized abilities. Manipulation is a Nen type that allows a user to control people, objects, or even living creatures using their aura. The exact method of control depends on the user's ability. Some manipulators need to place an object or their aura on the target first, while others can control objects from a distance. The conditions placed on an ability can also determine how much control the user gains over their target. One famous example is Illumi Zoldyck. He can use his Nen-infused needles to alter people's appearance and control their bodies. He can even implant needles into himself to change his appearance or enhance his physical abilities. Another example is Shalnark, a member of the Phantom Troop. His ability Black Voice allows him to control people by attaching special antennas to them. Once an antenna is attached, he can control the target through his mobile phone. A third example is Morel Macanacy. His ability Deep Purple allows him to manipulate smoke and create highly detailed smoke soldiers that can follow his commands. Morel can use them for combat, deception, surveillance, and many other purposes. Like other Nen users, a manipulator can learn to use other Nen categories, but their efficiency depends on their natural affinity. A manipulator has 100% manipulation, 80% emission, 60% enhancement, 60% conjuration, 40% transmutation, 0% specialization. Manipulation can be extremely dangerous because the user doesn't necessarily need to overpower their opponent physically. If the conditions of the ability are fulfilled, they may simply take control of the target and turn the fight in their favor. This makes manipulation one of the most strategic Nen types, where preparation and clever conditions can be just as important as raw power. Specialization is the most unusual Nen type because it allows its users to develop abilities that don't fit into the other 5 Nen categories. Unlike enhancement, transmutation, conjuration, emission, and manipulation, specialization doesn't have one simple rule that defines what its users can do. Instead, its abilities can be extremely unique and sometimes involve effects that would be impossible or extremely difficult to achieve through the other Nen types. One famous example is Crollo Lucifer. His ability, Skill Hunter, allows him to steal other people's Nen abilities and store them inside a book. Under certain conditions, he can then use those stolen abilities himself. Another example is Neon Nostrade. Her ability, Lovely Ghostwriter, allows her to create prophesies about a person's future. The predictions are written automatically in the form of poems, without Neon consciously knowing what they will say. A third example is Kurapika, whose natural Nen type is Conjuration. However, when his Scarlet Eyes activate, he becomes a specialist and gains Emperor time, allowing him to use all 6 Nen categories at 100% efficiency. Specialization is also different when it comes to Nen compatibility. There is no normal percentage such as 80%, 60%, or 40% for specialization like there is between the other 5 categories. Some people are naturally born as specialists, while others can develop the potential for specialization under certain circumstances. Because of how unpredictable it can be, specialization is often considered the most mysterious Nen category. Its abilities can range from stealing Nen powers to predicting the future, making it almost impossible to know what a specialist is capable of until their ability is revealed. Gyu is a Nen technique that allows a user to concentrate a large amount of aura into a specific part of their body. The most common use of Gyu is concentrating aura in the eyes. By doing this, a Nen user can see aura much more clearly and detect things that would normally be hidden. This makes Gyu extremely useful for detecting in, a technique that can hide aura from normal Nen perception. By using Gyu on their eyes, a Nen user can increase their ability to see hidden aura and discover abilities or objects that their opponent is trying to conceal. But Gyu isn't limited to the eyes. A user can concentrate aura into other parts of their body as well. For example, they can focus it into an arm to increase the power of an attack, or into another part of the body to strengthen their defense. However, there is a trade-off. Since Gyu concentrates a large amount of aura into one area, other parts of the body are left with less aura and therefore become less protected. This makes Gyu particularly useful in combat, where a Nen user must constantly decide where to concentrate their aura. In simple terms, Gyu is about concentrating your aura where you need it most. It may seem simple, but knowing when and where to use Gyu can make a huge difference in a Nen battle. In is a Nen technique that allows a user to hide their aura from normal perception. By using In, a Nen user can conceal their aura so that other people cannot easily see or sense it. This makes In extremely useful for hiding Nen abilities, attacks, or objects that have been covered with aura. For example, a user could hide an attack made with aura until the moment it reaches their opponent. The opponent might not realize what is happening until it is too late. In can also be used to conceal the effects of other Nen techniques. This makes it particularly dangerous when combined with abilities that rely on surprise or deception. However, In is not completely undetectable. A skilled Nen user can use Gyu on their eyes to see aura that has been hidden within. This creates an interesting interaction between the two techniques. In hides aura, while Gyu can reveal it. Using In also requires concentration and control. The better the user is at manipulating their aura, the more effectively they can conceal it without revealing that something is being hidden. In simple terms, In is the art of hiding your aura from your opponent. It may seem like a defensive technique, but in the hands of a clever Nen user, In can become a powerful tool for deception, surprise attacks, and concealing the true nature of an ability. En is a Nen technique that allows a user to expand their aura around their body and sense anything that enters its range. Instead of keeping aura close to the body, the user spreads it over a surrounding area, creating a kind of detection field. When someone or something enters this field, the user can sense its presence and movement through their aura. This allows them to detect enemies even if they are hiding, standing behind objects, or approaching from outside their normal field of vision. The size of En depends heavily on the user's skill and aura control. Some Nen users can maintain En over a relatively small area, while exceptionally skilled users can expand it over a huge distance. One of the most famous examples is Neferpitou, who could maintain an enormous En and use it to monitor a massive area around them. Nobunaga Hazama is another example. His En is much smaller, but he uses it effectively because he specializes in close-range combat and can immediately react to anything entering his detection range. En is extremely useful for tracking, defending an area, detecting hidden enemies, and avoiding surprise attacks. However, maintaining a large En requires a great deal of aura and concentration. The larger the area, the more demanding it becomes for the user. In simple terms, En turns your aura into a sensory field around you. And unlike Gyu, which concentrates aura into a specific part of the body, En spreads aura outward to give the user awareness of their surroundings. Shu is a Nen technique that allows a user to extend their aura around an object and treat that object as an extension of their own body. By using Shu, a Nen user can surround an object with their aura, greatly increasing its durability and allowing them to use their Nen through it. For example, a user could apply Shu to a sword, making it much stronger and more resistant to damage. They could then use their aura through the weapon to make their attacks more powerful. Shu isn't limited to weapons. A user can apply it to almost any object, depending on their skill and ability to control their aura. One famous example is Hisoka, who uses Shu with playing cards. By covering his cards with aura, he can make them much more dangerous and use them as effective weapons. Shu is especially useful because it allows a Nen user to combine their aura with ordinary objects. Something that would normally be weak or fragile can become a powerful tool when reinforced with Nen. However, Shu requires the user to maintain control of their aura around the object. The larger or more complicated the object is, the more difficult it can become to use Shu effectively. In simple terms, Shu is the technique of extending your aura onto an object and making it function as an extension of yourself. This makes Shu extremely useful for turning ordinary weapons and objects into powerful tools in a Nen battle. Ku is a Nen technique that concentrates almost all of a user's aura into a single point of their body. By combining the principles of Ten, Zetsu, Ren, and Hatsu, the user focuses their aura into one specific area, such as a fist or a foot. This creates an enormous increase in power in that particular location. For example, a user can concentrate their aura into their fist to deliver an extremely powerful punch. They could also focus it into another part of their body to strengthen an attack or defend against an incoming strike. However, Ku has a major weakness. Because almost all of the user's aura is concentrated in one area, the rest of their body is left with very little aura protecting it. If an opponent attacks somewhere else, the user can be extremely vulnerable. This creates a major risk in combat. A powerful KO attack can potentially end a fight with a single hit, but if the opponent predicts where the aura is concentrated, they can exploit the user's lack of defense elsewhere. Ku is therefore not simply about producing more power. It is about sacrificing defense in some parts of the body to achieve maximum power in another. This is why timing and prediction are extremely important when using it. In simple terms, Ku puts almost everything you have into one attack or one point of defense. It can be devastating when used correctly, but one mistake can leave the user completely exposed. Ken is a Nen technique that allows a user to maintain a large amount of aura around their entire body for an extended period of time. Unlike KO, which concentrates aura into one specific point, Ken spreads a large amount of aura across the whole body. This creates a powerful defensive layer that protects the user from attacks and allows them to maintain a strong level of aura during combat. Ken is essentially an advanced form of Ren that a user learns to maintain for a longer period. While Ren focuses on producing a large amount of aura, Ken allows the user to sustain that state continuously. This makes Ken extremely useful in prolonged battles. Instead of constantly increasing and decreasing their aura output, a user can maintain a stable flow of aura around their entire body and remain ready to defend or attack. However, maintaining Ken requires a significant amount of aura and concentration. The longer a user maintains it, the more energy they consume. Ken is especially important when fighting another Nen user because it provides balanced protection across the entire body, unlike KO, which leaves most of the body exposed. In simple terms, Ken is about maintaining a powerful layer of aura around your entire body for as long as possible. It may not provide the explosive power of KO, but it gives a Nen user the stability and protection they need to survive a prolonged battle. Ryu is a Nen technique that allows a user to constantly change the distribution of their aura between different parts of their body during combat. Instead of keeping the same amount of aura everywhere, the user can move their aura to where it is needed most. For example, they might increase the amount of aura in their fist to make an attack stronger, while keeping enough aura in the rest of their body to remain protected. This makes Ryu extremely important in Nen battles because a fighter cannot simply focus all of their aura in one place all the time. They need to balance offense and defense while reacting to their opponent. A skilled user can quickly move their aura from one part of the body to another. They might strengthen their arm just before attacking, then immediately shift their aura toward another part of the body when they expect an incoming attack. Ryu is therefore less about creating a new ability and more about controlling how much aura is being used in different parts of the body at any given moment. The technique is closely connected to KO, because KO concentrates almost all of the user's aura into one point. Ryu allows the user to control these changes in aura distribution during a fight instead of keeping their aura fixed in one position. In simple terms, Ryu is the art of constantly redistributing your aura between offense and defense. The better a Nen user becomes at Ryu, the faster they can adapt to their opponent and exploit openings while protecting themselves at the same time. Nen vows and restrictions are rules that a user places on their own Nen ability in exchange for making it more powerful. The basic idea is simple: the greater the risk or limitation a user accepts, the greater the potential increase in their Nen ability. A restriction can limit when, how, or against whom an ability can be used. The user might also make a vow that carries serious consequences if they break its conditions. One of the best examples is Kurapika. His ability Chain Jail can completely restrain a member of the Phantom Troop. However, Kurapika placed an extremely strict condition on it: he can only use Chain Jail against members of the Phantom Troop. If he uses it against anyone else, he will die. Because the restriction is so severe, Chain Jail becomes extraordinarily powerful against its intended targets. But these restrictions aren't simply a way to get free power. The user must genuinely accept the limitation and its consequences. The more meaningful the sacrifice or risk is to the user, the greater the potential effect on their Nen. This is what makes Nen different from many other power systems. A character doesn't necessarily become stronger by simply training harder. They can also make their ability stronger by giving something up. However, the exact effect of a restriction depends on the ability and the conditions involved. Not every simple rule will automatically make an ability enormously stronger. In simple terms, Nen vows and restrictions turn limitations into power. The user gives themselves a disadvantage, accepts a risk, or places strict conditions on their ability, and in return, their Nen can become much more powerful. A Nen exorcist is a Nen user who specializes in removing the effects of another person's Nen from a target. Some Nen abilities can place a lasting effect on another person. These effects can be extremely difficult to remove because they may remain active even after the original user stops actively controlling them. This is where Nen exorcists come in. Instead of fighting the ability directly, an exorcist uses their own Nen to remove or neutralize the foreign Nen affecting the target. However, this doesn't mean every Nen curse can be removed easily. The difficulty depends on the ability itself and how powerful or complicated its conditions are. One example from the anime is Abengane, a Nen exorcist introduced during the Greed Island arc. His ability allows him to remove Nen effects placed on himself or others. But Abengane's exorcism doesn't simply make the Nen disappear. The removed Nen can sometimes be transformed into a creature-like form that remains connected to Abengane. This means that removing a Nen ability can come with its own consequences and limitations. Nen exorcists are therefore extremely valuable because some Nen abilities cannot simply be broken through force. Instead, they require someone with a specific ability to remove them. In simple terms, a Nen exorcist is someone who specializes in removing the Nen effects placed by other users. And this brings us to one of the strangest aspects of Nen: sometimes, even death cannot completely stop an ability. Post-mortem Nen is a phenomenon where a person's Nen can continue to exist even after their death. Normally, when a Nen user dies, their aura should disappear with them. But in some cases, a person's strong emotions, determination, or attachment to their ability can cause their Nen to remain active after death. What makes post-mortem Nen especially dangerous is that the aura can become stronger after the user's death. This is because the Nen is no longer being restrained by the user's living body, and the conditions or emotions behind the ability can become even more powerful. One of the most famous examples is Hisoka. After his death, Hisoka's Nen ability Bungee Gum continued to function because he had programmed his aura to activate after his heart and lungs stopped. His Nen revived his body, allowing him to return to life. Another example is Neferpitou. After Pitu's death, their Nen ability Terpsichore continued moving their body and made it attack with tremendous force, despite Pitu already being dead. This shows why postmortem Nen is so frightening. Killing the Nen user does not always mean the ability has stopped. However, postmortem Nen is not something that automatically happens to every Nen user. The strength and persistence of the effect depend on the nature of the ability and the user's attachment, conditions, or determination. In simple terms, Nen can sometimes survive its user, and in certain circumstances, it can become even more powerful after death. And this is one of the reasons Nen remains one of the most unpredictable power systems in anime. And with this, I have explained all the basics of Nen. However, there is one important point I need to clarify: Nen becomes much more complicated as the events of the manga progress. For example, Nen abilities have different categories, such as counter-type abilities, and the Nen types themselves have subcategories, such as manipulation having categories like coercion and deception. But with this video, you should be able to understand the fundamentals of Nen and make the system much less complicated to understand. And don't worry, even if you still find Nen difficult to understand, you're not alone. It really is a complicated system, and that's exactly what makes it so fascinating. If you've made it this far, it means you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment sharing your thoughts on today's topic.